the news. If Angel Reese was going into the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, no one would care. She'd be like, oh, okay, that woman's really good on the offensive boards. I mean, that's really what she is.
Did you see what just happened? Dan Patrick absolutely destroyed Angel Reese's claim that she's the reason everyone's watching the WNBA. The veteran sports commentator didn't hold back when he exposed how Angel Reese has been living in her own fantasy world. You might be thinking Angel Reese deserves some credit for women's basketball popularity, but Patrick breaks down exactly why that's not the case. He shows us proof after proof that without Caitlin Clark, nobody would even know who Angel Reese is. Stay tuned because we're about to show you the complete breakdown that has basketball Twitter absolutely losing it right now.
I think so many people are watching women's basketball right now. It all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball. People are pulling up to games. We got celebrities coming to games, sold out arenas, just because of one single game.
Did you catch what Angel Reese said last year? During a media session, she made an absolutely wild claim that got everyone talking. She actually said, the reason why we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me too. Can you believe that? She directly challenged the idea that Caitlin Clark is the only one driving all this new interest in women's basketball.
And just looking at that, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on and be that for my teammates. And if I want to be that, and I know I'll go down in history, I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
This statement is so disconnected from reality, it's almost hard to process. We saw record-breaking viewership numbers for the WNBA last season, and they just happened to coincide perfectly with Caitlin Clark's arrival. What a coincidence, right? Ticket prices were through the roof, games were selling out left and right, and social media was exploding with WNBA content. All things that weren't happening before Clark entered the league. But Angel Reese seriously thought she deserved equal credit for this surge in popularity.
If she would have left it with what she had to say right before the last couple of words, I would have been fine with it. She's embraced the villain. She understands social media. She's done quite well. She is cashed in, literally cashed in.
This isn't just some offhand comment either. It's part of a pattern where she's consistently tried to position herself as this co-star in the WNBA's rise to prominence. And the timing couldn't be more transparent. Making these claims right when the league is experiencing unprecedented attention that clearly follows Clark wherever she goes.
WNBA has been around a couple of decades, and people didn't notice the game. They're noticing it now. Well, that's because of Caitlin Clark, not Angel Reese.
Dan Patrick wasn't having any of it. He pointed out something really interesting about Reese's behavior. Instead of celebrating with her teammates after winning the national title, her first instinct was to mock Clark. That tells you everything about where her focus really is. Patrick also noted that while both players have significant social media followings, it's Clark's unique playing style and charisma that's actually bringing in the big endorsements and viewer attention.
Her attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlin Clark, because she wins the national title. First thing she does, she mocks Caitlin Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlin Clark.
You know what Patrick said that really put this whole thing in perspective? He compared what Caitlin Clark is doing for the WNBA to what Tiger Woods did for golf and what Lionel Messi did for Major League Soccer. That's not just a casual comparison. That's putting her in the company of absolute transformative legends of their sports.
People watched golf because of Tiger, right? You tuned in. No matter what event Tiger was playing, you were going to watch. They're still trying to capitalize on him. Playing in the U.S. Open, NBC and Peacock, their graphic has Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and then who's looming larger on the screen but Tiger?
Think about it. Before Tiger Woods, how many casual fans were tuning into golf tournaments every weekend? Not many. Then Tiger came along and suddenly everyone was watching, even people who'd never picked up a club in their lives. The same thing happened when Messi joined Inter Miami. People who couldn't name a single MLS team before were suddenly buying tickets and merchandise.
Can out of Tiger. When Gretzky got to the LA Kings, Messi goes to the MLS. Maybe Connor McDavid with Edmonton. Like you're trying to, there's somebody you may tune in to watch, and then maybe if you watch, then maybe you appreciate what you're seeing.
Patrick isn't just throwing these comparisons around for fun. He's making a really important point about what's happening with the WNBA right now. The league has been around for decades without getting anywhere near this level of mainstream attention. What changed in 2024? It wasn't Angel Reese's rebounding skills or social media presence. It was Caitlin Clark bringing something completely new to the table.
But the eyeballs on the WNBA really have to do with Caitlin Clark. Now, you might, if you stay long enough, maybe you'll see something or someone there you go, okay, I'm entertained by this. But there's nothing wrong with admitting that you watch a sport because of one singular person.
The really brutal part came when Patrick straight up said, "There's nothing about Angel Reese's game that's really interesting to casual viewers." That's not a small critique. That's completely dismantling her entire claim about being responsible for the WNBA's surge in popularity. Patrick isn't saying Reese isn't good. He's saying there's nothing about her specific style of play that would make someone who doesn't already watch women's basketball suddenly tune in.
Angel Reese has played a role in this, and she's a very good player. But there's nothing about her game that's really interesting that is going to translate to people who may not watch the WNBA, may not care about basketball. She is a social media star, and she has capitalized on that. And maybe she embraces being the villain.
What Patrick's analysis shows is that there's a massive difference between being good at basketball and being the kind of once-in-a-generation talent that transforms how people see the entire sport. Clark falls into that rare second category, while Reese clearly doesn't. Patrick points out that Reese has definitely capitalized on positioning herself against Clark and embraces being the villain, but makes it crystal clear. Make no mistake about it, Caitlin Clark is the reason why everybody has an opinion on what happened in that game.
But make no mistake about it, Caitlin Clark is the reason why everybody has an opinion on what happened in that game. It's Caitlin Clark. Now, do I think it was assault, as the Chicago Tribune said? No, it was not. It was a hard foul. It's wrong. You don't need it in the game.
It's a complete reality check about who's driving this relationship. Reese seems to believe she and Clark are equal partners in building this new era of women's basketball. But Patrick's breakdown exposes the uncomfortable truth. Reese is benefiting from Clark's stardom, not contributing equally to it. Without Clark in the picture, would casual sports fans even know who Angel Reese is?
And I don't like the other narrative, like you have the gatekeepers now, like, hey, we've been playing basketball a long time, where were you? No. You know, we're watching because of Caitlin Clark. I didn't watch the MLS. Messi started playing. I watched the MLS. People watching Tiger. You know, they didn't play golf, but there was Tiger. There was something about him.
That question about whether anyone would know Angel Reese without Caitlin Clark? Well, Patrick didn't just ask it. He answered it by exposing the deeper emotional drive behind Reese's actions. This isn't just about two competitive players going at it on the court. Patrick straight up said what many have been thinking, but few have been willing to say out loud. Angel Reese is jealous of Caitlin Clark.
In race, do I think everybody's jealous of Caitlin Clark? I don't. But I do think they are out to prove a point. You're not coming in and dominating our game because we are grown women and we are going to be physical with you. Now, dirty, then I have a problem with that. But you're playing tough. It's competition.
And before you think that's just some hot take, look at the evidence Patrick laid out. Remember that shocking moment during a game when Clark got knocked down on the court? Most players would wince or look away. Basic sportsmanship, right? Not Reese. She literally stood up and started applauding. Who does that? That's not competitive fire. That's something personal.
Played off of that. Even Caitlin Clark getting knocked down in that game on Saturday, who's standing up applauding but Angel Reese? So she's sort of embraced a Draymond Green role here.
Patrick didn't pull any punches in his analysis. He compared Reese to NBA players known for their antagonistic styles, saying she's tried to position herself like Draymond Green by embracing the villain role. But Patrick argues she's actually more Dylan Brooks, an important distinction that suggests she's not just playing tough, she's deliberately going out of her way to provoke and instigate conflicts with Clark specifically.
Angel Reese wants to be Draymond Green. She's more Dylan Brooks. Like she's trying to be an instigator. She goes out of her way to criticize Caitlin Clark. So if you factor all of this in, that's when people have opinions that aren't basketball related.
What makes this whole situation even more fascinating is how Patrick broke down Reese's business strategy. She's not just acting this way because of some personal vendetta. She's turned antagonizing Clark into a legitimate career move. By positioning herself as the anti-Clark, she's managed to secure endorsements and build a massive social media following. It's calculated, it's deliberate, and it's working for her financially.
Look, this is business. She's creating business. If you watch her play, there's nothing exciting about her game. There's nothing that stands out. She's just a really good, solid player. But there's no signature. There's nothing about her game where you go, oh my God, you see that? She just plays hard.
But here's the thing, this strategy completely depends on Clark being in the picture. Patrick points out that without Caitlin Clark as her foil, Reese's entire persona collapses. She needs the contrast. She needs the rivalry. She needs Clark to be the star so she can be the antagonist. It's a one-sided relationship where Reese is essentially drafting off Clark's popularity and turning it into her own brand.
But Caitlin got all of this exposure. She's getting endorsements because she's unique. It's like Steph Curry's unique. Tiger Woods' unique. Not everybody gets it just because, hey, I put in 10 years in the WNBA or the PGA Tour or the NBA. It doesn't work that way. It's supply and demand.
The psychology behind it is fascinating. Patrick suggests this isn't just about basketball strategy or building a brand. It's about a fundamental insecurity. The jealousy isn't just about Clark's skills or fame. It's about the effortless way Clark has captured attention while simply playing her game and avoiding drama.
It's not, I'm better than her. Maybe you are, but that doesn't mean you get an endorsement. Hey, you're better than her. Does that mean somebody's going to buy your shoes? And the answer is no.
Beyond all the jealousy and brand building lies, the most uncomfortable question in this whole saga, one that Dan Patrick wasn't afraid to tackle head on. If these two players never shared the court again, whose career would suffer most? Patrick delivers the most devastating reality check yet, one that completely dismantles the foundation of Reese's claims about her importance to women's basketball.
But people are kind of using Caitlin Clark for their agenda. And that's the unfortunate part of it. And she's damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. You have people in the media criticizing her. Why don't you stand up, take a stand?
Let's be crystal clear about what Patrick actually said. His verdict on this rivalry couldn't be more straightforward. Angel Reese needs Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark absolutely does not need Angel Reese. Talk about a brutal assessment. He's essentially saying that without Clark in the picture, Reese's relevance dramatically diminishes.
Maybe Caitlin Clark just wants to play basketball. She doesn't want to be a lightning rod. She wants her game to speak for herself. And for the most part, she's taken the high road with this. Angel Reese needs Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark does not need Angel Reese.
Why is this such a bombshell? Because it directly contradicts everything Reese has been trying to convince the public about her star power. Patrick didn't sugarcoat his assessment either. While giving Reese her due as a very good player, he immediately followed up with the critical observation that there's simply nothing about her game that would attract casual viewers to women's basketball. Her playing style, despite being effective, doesn't have that magnetic quality that pulls in people who wouldn't otherwise watch the WNBA.
We notice Angel Reese when she plays against Caitlin Clark. No other time. I mean, you might accidentally go, oh, so that's the woman. That's it. So maybe Caitlin gets some joy out of this by the end of the season. They're not a really good team, not even a good team, but they're playing better, and she's playing better. Next year is when I want to see how she plays.
This is the fundamental issue with Reese's delusion. She's built this narrative of being equally responsible for the explosion in women's basketball popularity, but Patrick's assessment cuts right through that fantasy. What's particularly revealing is how he contrasts their approaches to the game and to each other. While Reese has focused on stirring controversy and creating drama, Clark has consistently taken the high road throughout their interactions.
Angel Reese doesn't like Caitlin Clark. Go back to when she won a national title. She didn't celebrate with her teammates. She mocked Caitlin Clark. So there's jealousy there. I certainly see that with her. I don't know about the league, but I do think that she's benefited The WNBA has benefited from Caitlin Clark and the publicity.
And this difference speaks volumes. Clark has been all about letting her game do the talking, focusing on basketball fundamentals and innovation rather than social media feuds. Meanwhile, Reese has leveraged their interactions to build a social media presence that, while successful in generating followers, doesn't translate into becoming an independent draw for the sport itself.
I think Angel Reese is jealous of Caitlin Clark. She thinks she's, the reason why this is all happening here. Caitlin Clark was going to get eyeballs whether she played against Angel Reese in LSU or not, because we had not seen anything like this before.
Can you imagine what would happen if Clark suddenly retired tomorrow? The WNBA would lose its biggest attraction overnight. But if Reese left, the casual fans who've recently discovered women's basketball would barely notice her absence. That's the harsh reality that Patrick isn't afraid to point out.
She thinks she's, the reason why this is all happening here. Caitlin Clark was going to get eyeballs whether she played against Angel Reese in LSU or not, because we had not seen anything like this before. Her style of play. There's great players in the game, wonderful players. I go back to Diana Taurasi.
So what we've seen here is a complete dismantling of a narrative that simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Dan Patrick didn't just disagree with Angel Reese. He completely exposed the fundamental truth about women's basketball's current moment. Look at the situation objectively, and it's painfully obvious. The WNBA was struggling for mainstream attention for decades until Clark arrived with her game-changing skills and personality.
This is going to be history. It's like what I told her, that's pretty epic that we get to watch her, because not a lot of games here in Dallas with somebody that big of a star.
The pattern is undeniable. Every time Reese makes headlines, it's directly connected to Clark somehow. Without that connection, crickets. This is exactly why Patrick's final assessment was so devastating. Reese has masterfully created her entire public persona around being the anti-Clark. But remove Clark from the equation, and what's left? Just another talented player that casual fans wouldn't recognize walking down the street. That's the uncomfortable reality that Patrick had the courage to articulate. In the broader cultural conversation around women's basketball, Clark is the sun, and everyone else is merely orbiting her star power.